In Larae Caverns, Virginia, among the giant pillar-like spikes and reflective pools of water, sitting alone in this cave is what appears to be a typical everyday organ. But looks can be deceiving, as this isn't just any organ. This instrument plays the cave itself, echoing a beautiful array of tones and pitches throughout the cavern. Or does it? How can a cave be an instrument? How can you play stone and earth like wood and wind? And how do you define what's natural and what's not? I felt skeptical of this instrument and needed to see it for myself, as anyone who tried to describe it to me failed to explain how it worked, or at least convincingly. On this episode of Locals Only, we venture into a truly underground music scene and visit the Stalacpipe organ of Larae Caverns. And as a bonus, we try to find out whatever happened to the missing musician who hasn't returned to play it in years. In order to understand the instrument first, let's talk about Larae Caverns and see if we can understand why it was built there, of all places. Larae Caverns is a cave named after the town of Larae, which has drawn many visitors there since its discovery in 1878. The cavern system is generously adorned with natural structures such as columns, mud flows, stalactites, stalagmites, flowstone, and pools of water so still they mirror the ceiling, giving a magical effect of doubling the space. Although known to the Native Americans in the area at the time, Larae Caverns was officially discovered on August 13, 1878. They were attracted to the protruding limestone in a sinkhole nearby that was noted to have cool air flowing from it. Seeking a cavern, the men started to dig, and about 4 hours later, a hole just big enough for the smallest of them to squeeze through emerged, and they promptly slid down on a rope and explored by candlelight into the dark and massive surroundings. Upon entering the area, they discovered a skeleton, thought to be that of a Native American girl found in one of the chasms. She was estimated to be 500 years old at the time. Her remains may have slipped into the caverns after a burial hole collapsed due to a sinkhole, although the real cause is unknown. Then, nearly 75 years later, after the cave had been fully explored, tours started taking place when a man decided this would be a perfect place for one of the most unique instruments ever made. Leland W. Sprinkle asked if his son Rob, in 1954, wanted to have a normal birthday party, or if he wanted to join him in exploring a local cavern with his pops. Rob asked to see the cavern for his 5th birthday, and immediately the pair set out. During the tour of the natural wonder, they watched in awe as a tour guide tapped the ancient stone formations with a rubber mallet, producing a haunting but beautiful musical tone, and played "Mary Had a Little Lamb" with just the cave itself. Leland was greatly inspired by this demonstration and wanted to take full advantage of this colossal room. Leland, who worked at the Pentagon as a mathematician and electronics scientist, could very well have been the next Einstein, but paused and decided to try and develop this cave into something more. He began this monumental 3-year project by searching through the vast chambers of the caverns. With the aid of 13 English tuning forks, he spent days tapping potential rock formations. Stalactites were selected from over 3.5 acres of the caverns and painstakingly altered them with grinding to get them in tune, to become what would eventually be the world's largest natural musical instrument. Although Larae claims this to be a natural instrument, most people don't realize that the organ is electronically controlled and wired up. Leland was probably familiar with the possibilities thanks to the recent electrifications of instruments like lap steel and electric guitars from rock and roll. Electric mallets were wired throughout the caverns and connected to a large 4-octave console. When a key is pressed, a tone occurs when the solenoid rubber-tipped plungers strike the stalactite, tuned to that concert pitch. A pickup Leland invented then amplifies the sound, and it plays through the cave's sound system. The organ isn't entirely acoustic, Though it can be played acoustically, it does rely on electrification to make it loud enough. When standing in the cathedral section of the cavern, one can hear the little solenoids clicking and actuating. You can also hear the water dripping from the ceiling and visitors shuffling in and out. Fans of the game Minecraft might actually hear some similarities in their sounds. Today, the organ is played by activating an automated system which works in a manner like a children's music box. The organ is also fully capable of being played manually, but there are mixed reports as to whether anyone is allowed to play it anymore. There is an actual mystery to be solved here though, folks. When I visited Larae Caverns, I did ask if people were allowed to play the organ, and the responses I got were interesting. Normal people aren't allowed to play it as the keys and systems are very sensitive. But there was an older gentleman known by the staff who would simply walk in and play it on a weekly basis. However, it's been years since anyone has seen him at the cave. Some of the newer staff were unaware that anyone played it to begin with. I originally suspected that this might have been his son Rob, who was returning to his father's work. However, Robert Sprinkle, who is no longer 5 years old, lives hours away and works a fulfilling career at the University of Maryland, teaching politics and life sciences. I was told to contact a specific person at Larae who might know the answer. Nate Miller, who was recognized there as the man who knew pretty much everything about the organ, couldn't remember this man's name after several years. Meanwhile, another staff member assured me that Leland Sprinkle was the last person that played that organ. However, Leland passed away in 1990, which makes it hard to believe that no one has played this for 32 years, which conflicts with other descriptions and sightings dating back to 2018. So the musician couldn't have been Leland, and it couldn't have been Rob. So who was it? Strangely, I cannot find any evidence outside the one-time guests that played the organ, which included Mr. Rogers at one point.
Please be seated.
Oh, I'd be glad to.
We'll turn it on.
Looks like a 4-manual pipe organ console here, Eric.
Well, actually, it's a stalactite organ.
That's what it should be in the cave.
That's right. Play a note, Fred.
How does that do that?
After several emails and phone calls to Larae staff, unfortunately, whoever this man was is still a mystery. Could it have been a local man who slyly convinced staff that he was supposed to be there? Or was it in fact Robert Sprinkle visiting family and deciding to reminisce in his father's legacy? Or was it simply different people at different times being allowed to play it just for a moment? Unfortunately, it's inconclusive anyone played it at all after those one-time guests, as there's no video evidence, and the staff seemed a little confused themselves. I plan on doing a follow-up video in the future once his identity is discovered, if there is someone at all. But until then, the only thing I can be certain of is the fact you can still visit Larae Caverns and hear the organ play itself. If you like this video, please consider becoming a patron and liking and subscribing, as every little thing helps. And once more, this is Patrick from Locals Only saying, thanks for watching.